So Yash Haralalka. So for networking, what do you do?
But one good thing that I've learned from my seniors is whenever you're in a table with someone, don't have a motive that you want to sell something to the other person, or don't have this motive कि तुमको दूसरे जन से कुछ निकाल के आना है.
Anything you'll recommend to your juniors now?
Invest in yourself.
What is your job looking like? What is your role looking like? Just explain your work.
So I typically work in the private space. My job is divided into two parts. One is sourcing startups.
Okay.
And the second part is connecting those startups to relevant investors.
क्या चीज़ लगता है कि नहीं एज अ स्टूडेंट ये चीज़ और उस समय सीख लिया होता या कर लिया होता तो आज और बेटर होता या फास्टर होता करियर में? So again, another student came to meet me in the office after class, and I got him to answer a few questions of mine before I let him go. So we've been talking for a while now, discussing how his work has been and what he's looking at doing in the future and everything. So Yash Haralalka, he has been. When did you start studying for your level 1 with me?
I started FRM with you. That was in 2020.
So 2020 you started with FRM, then CFA, and then you were working with me for a while.
Correct.
And now you're working in a venture capital firm. So first of all, tell me, what is your job looking like? What is your role looking like? What do you do just explain your work.
So I typically work in the private space. My job is divided into two parts. One is sourcing startup.
Okay.
The reason that I do that, or the way that I do that, is talking to different founders, understanding what they're building, how is the market, why do they require funds, at what valuation are they coming in, etc., etc. So a lot of parameters before you source a startup.
Okay.
And the second part is connecting those startups to relevant investors.
Okay.
So say a startup comes to me, I source it. There is an IC committee that sits that recommends that is this a good startup for our portfolio or not. Once the entire process is completed, it is then my job to get that amount of funding for the startups. So I reach out to family offices, angel investors, VC firms, PE firms, etc. to get the funding.
So explain the step in the middle. That is, how do you evaluate? How does the IC committees are evaluating these startups, whether it's worth your time to raise money for them or not? Because obviously your company's reputation also comes into question, because depending on the kind of startup that you're trying to raise money for.
So Bhaiya, let's do one thing. Let's divide the startups into two categories. Let us first take an early stage company,
Okay.
which is typically a pre-seed seed company.
Mm-hmm.
And second is a Series A company, Series A, Series B company. My forte or my expertise or my liking is for the first kind of companies, that is pre-seed or seed companies.
Okay.
Now in that case, there's no DCF valuation that you can do, क्योंकि कंपनी के पास अभी कोई रेवेन्यू ही नहीं है. कंपनी का रेवेन्यू मॉडल फिक्स नहीं है, वो फोरकास्ट क्या ही करेगा.
Correct.
In such a situation, it is a subjective call where you focus more on the founder, whether the founder has that grit to make that into a big company or not.
Right.
कि इतना सारा challenges आएगा as an entrepreneur. Even you know that there are thousands of challenges that will come. So does the founder has that expertise? Does the founder has that knowledge to tackle those things?
Right.
That is one.
That's also one of the reasons why people nowadays do not want to invest in a single founder company.
100%.
They want to have at least 2 or 3 founders who are together looking at the company in case that one founder is facing. I've seen a couple of them where mental health issues are being faced by one of the founders. He's not being able to manage that level of, all that is needed to run a company and to make something out of it. So that's one of the criteria I've seen people putting in.
That's very important. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you look at the market. कि यार ये market में कोई और player है क्या? If there are other players, how am I different from the other player?
For the startup.
For that particular
you do
startup.
A competitor analysis.
Correct. A competitor
analysis. Whether they have
analysis.
a moat or not.
Correct. The USP, the moat. And you look at the market saying कि market saturated है या नहीं है. Like I'll give you an example. Currently we funded a D2C company. What they do is they make potato chips. Okay. They make aloo bhujia, they make potato chips.
Okay.
अब a normal question that people would ask कि भाई क्या है? What's the difference here?
Yes.
A good thing that the founder told me, and the good thing that we noticed is कि they are making potato chips, aloo bhujia, all these namkeens.
Okay.
But it is 50% less oil.
Okay.
Now the point is कि you or anyone as an individual, you are getting the same thing. आप भुजिया ही खा रहे हैं, आप potato chips ही खा रहे हैं,
Right.
but you're eating it in a healthy way.
Right.
It's not that I'm shifting you to a protein bar. It's not that I'm shifting you to a different thing only. आप वही खाइए.
I'll pay for that bhujia.
Correct. Price point
I'll pay double for that bhujia.
Price point is also the same, but it's just that they've added that element. Instead of chocolate cookies, they've introduced a cookie which has dates also in it.
Okay.
5 रुपए के बदले 6 रुपए में बेचता है.
Right.
So entering into a very competitive market, but this
Even the
thing,
healthy one is competitive right now. Very competitive.
I agree.
Right.
But the point is they're doing something different and they're not changing the consumer focus. कि यार आपको भुजिया खाना है वही
But it
खाइए.
also depend on whether the taste is changing or not. Because there are products in the market like that. I'm not sure about bhujia, but the chips and all are definitely there, wherein baked and less oil and all of that. But the taste is significantly different as compared to the ones with oil.
Taste is very good. I've tried that myself.
Acha,
And they've been featured on Shark Tank also.
Okay.
So that's another thing. So that is कि आप market में जो लोग कर रहे हैं, how are you differentiating yourself from the market?
Right.
So first is founder, second is your USP moat.
So instead of the company analysis, you're focused more on the competitive analysis and the industry analysis and the company's product and the moat.
Correct.
And the business model. Basically, the business model is the focus while it is in an early stage. Perfect.
Correct. So that's more into a pre-seed, seed investments.
बट फिर भी फाइनेंशियल्स कुछ तो देखना पड़ता होगा. प्रोजेक्शंस तो बनाने ही पड़ते होंगे, आई एम अज्यूमिंग.
भैया प्रोजेक्शंस बनाने पड़ते हैं,
बट वेरी assumption based, which again
very
you cannot
assumption
rely
based.
on. So how do you
बोलेंगे-
come to an investment value in that case for these pre-seed companies?
It's mostly through peer comparison. Now you go to
But peer
traction,
comparison again, then how do you go about it? Multiple based?
multiple based.
So because when you're looking at this kind of a company, it is going to be more on the multiple side of things.
Correct.
And also you understand that startup space, you'll understand now better कि it is more on the multiples because वो market का momentum कैसा है.
हाँ.
क्योंकि market में for example अगर ये वाला edtech is not working, so people are going to give very poor multiples because ultimately you also want to see, or the investor who's investing in this, कि वो उसको भी तो 3 साल 4 साल 4x 5x not 3 साल 4 साल sorry 3x 4x 5x पे in the next 2 years or so they want to sell it off.
100%.
So the objective is not to hold, it is to see at what multiple I'll be able to sell it off.
100%.
So that is going to depend on the momentum in the market that is there.
100%.
So that is the reason why we are using multiple
approach.
Makes
typically
sense?
100%.
Alright, ठीक है.
So that is the first part of it. अब मैं आता हूँ सीरीज ए सीरीज बी, स्टार्टअप्स दैट हैव ट्रैक्शन, जिनका रेवेन्यू है, मार्केट में नाम है.
Right.
In that case, what you do is you typically do a DCF valuation because you can forecast the company
and you have
has
some historical data.
Correct. You have 3 to 4 years of historical data.
And
you
they do not maintain historical data very well at all.
Not at all.
It's a big problem with startups. I've dealt with them. I've dealt with their valuations and all that, and it's a big challenge.
100%. So they don't know how to I won't say all the startups do that, but a large number of
Excel में
startups
भी नहीं maintain करते कि उससे बना जा सके.
तो वो तो
ठीक
है.
है, fair enough.
So there we come to the DCF valuation.
ठीक है.
And उसमें भी founder great, betting on the founder is obviously a
Obviously
case.
one of the most
and
important
how can you get an
aspects.
exit?
Agreed. But with a lot more history available now.
Correct.
But
More
the
onto the
founder is
financial
still very,
side.
very important. No doubt about
100%.
it. All right. So we've got a brief of what your work around is like. So what are the areas of your of finance are you applying? I like to hear this as a teacher.
There are a lot of things. Starting off with alternate investments.
Right. So PEVC.
100%.
That part is there.
That part is there. You help me understand that in a very easy way, both in terms of while working with you and through the classes. तो मेरे को बहुत help हुआ उसमें.
So we worked on pitch decks, etc. with Yash.
Correct. So that's the first part of it. Secondly, what I would say is portfolio management comes into the picture, where beta comes into the picture, where you see how is the market
concepts
going.
Are there. You're not designing an
You're not
efficient
designing, but
portfolio,
100%.
but you need the logic.
Correct. And secondly, these basic things,
Business
even
model, industry, competitive analysis,
सारा चीज
part
भैया
of
मतलब
equity.
करेक्ट. नाउ इफ अ स्टार्टअप सेज कि मेरा नेट प्रॉफिट ऐसा है, मेरा कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट ऐसा है, इवन एट एन अर्ली स्टेज, एटलीस्ट यू नीड टू नो व्हाट
The
दोज आर.
terms are and how they are connected.
And you need to see whether the founders, are they making sense or not? Because their job is to give you a rosy picture.
Obviously.
Now you need to
So that is
picture
where your
out.
financial due diligence comes into
Correct,
play.
correct.
So how do you look at the divergence between a cash flow from operating activities versus net profit?
Net profit, correct.
So you start connecting and the things that we learn in FSA also
100%.
that comes in.
100%.
More importantly, I want to talk about, because ठीक है, finance तो सबको पता है, finance कैसे क्या use कर रहे हैं, वो सारा चीज़ people understand. The other things that I keep on telling you. So what are the other areas that you need to work on in order to apply the knowledge that you've learned in finance?
I would say reading is very important. Reading, both you need to be aware of the markets. I'm not saying you need to be a stock market expert, but you need to understand.
Whatever your area is.
Correct.
तो तुमको तुम्हारे area में you need to understand whatever is happening in the PVC space, in the ecosystem.
So say for example, अगर मैं कोई solar startup के बारे में research कर रहा हूँ, I need to understand, say, what a WARI is going through, whether the government has made any regulation with respect to a solar industry. Got it. If you are into space tech, anything government regulation. I
was saying this in the class the other day कि तुम्हारा कोई भी इंडस्ट्री में तुम काम कर रहे हो, उससे रिलेटेड तो तुमको सब कुछ जानना होगा, वो लीगल डॉक्यूमेंट भी पढ़ना आना होगा. सो इज टॉकिंग अबाउट समबडी अबाउट सम इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी रिलेटेड कि IP लॉज वगैरह भी पढ़ना अगर पड़ेगा. इफ यू आर वर्किंग ऑन एन IT कंपनी और समथिंग, you'll have to. So whatever the government is coming up with in terms of regulation around solar, and not only your government, if say for example something is happening in China with regards to this, which is going to ultimately impact the demand or supply or whatever in India,
correct,
you'll have to know about it. You can't say कि ये तो engineering का है, ये तो इसका है, ये तो लॉ का है, मैं क्यों पढ़ूं. तो पढ़ना तो सब कुछ पड़ेगा
एंड अप्लाई करना भी पड़ेगा. अभी जैसे स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम में, there's something called a shareholders agreement, where all the legal rights and all are mentioned there. Now, I was completely unaware of that. I'm not from a legal background.
And that has to be like really very ironclad. I mean, it has to be एकदम tight agreement होना होगा.
Correct.
SHA has to be very, very well done.
Correct.
Yes.
So for that, you as an analyst, you as a person entering into this industry, you need to know what are the basic rights. जैसे tag along right क्या है, drag along क्या है, liquidation preference क्या है.
ये किए अपने all time में.
Correct. So these are the things that are
But you're applying now. Correct. You're looking at the exact language of those clauses being added to your agreement.
Correct. And how is that impacting your investment?
Okay. Yes. Because depending on the clauses, your value of the investment is also going to be changing. Correct.
So reading is very important.
ठीक है. And reading holistically across disciplines.
Across disciplines.
ठीक है.
And secondly is, networking. I mean, that is something that I've realized recently, the power of networking. Great. At least the industry in which I am, I need to talk to a lot of people, get startups from them, understand what their thesis is in this particular industry, whether they're funding this startup or they're not funding this startup, whom are they connected to. So the entire ecosystem is built on connection. Okay, so your role, of course, because you're in the sourcing startups and then looking for the fundraise aspect for those startups. So obviously your work is very much aligned to the networking. So for networking, what do you do? But one good thing that I've learned from my seniors is whenever you're in a table with someone, don't have a motive that you want to sell something to the other person, or don't have this motive कि तुमको दूसरे जन से कुछ निकाल के आना है.
Give and take, Adam Grant.
Give and take.
I told you to read this book. You read this one?
That's in my bucket list. So that is one very important thing, because earlier what I used to do is कि यार you listen to me.
You're desperate to get the work done.
Correct.
So that vibe or that energy, or I would not call it that, or that intention is going to come across, because again, you have to read a little more into psychology. So you were just discussing before we started this thing, you were talking about the Never Split the Difference, the book by Chris Voss. So this one also is on my recommendation list that I had sent, and that is coming in handy in terms of negotiation. So understanding how people think. In fact, I just bought a book recently. I've not yet started reading. It is about different types of intelligence. Oh. So I'm gonna see how it is. I'm forgetting the name of the book as well, but it's about different types of intelligence and how to develop and all that. So I hope I'll be smarter after that. But anyways.
So that's the first thing, कि don't have this mindset कि आपको दूसरे जन से कुछ लेके आना है.
ठीक है.
And the second one that's very important, I'm also working towards that, is whenever you're having a conversation with the other person, make sure you have depth of conversation in it. Ab say if you're talking to a CEO, if you're talking to a family office person, the point is, why will he entertain you? उसको तो 2 minute या 5 minute में पता चल जाएगा whether you have subject knowledge or not.
Yes.
So for you to have that half an hour conversation, 1 hour conversation, and have a follow-up meetup with him, you need to offer something to him. You need to show to him that you have depth of knowledge, you have depth of subject. Correct.
You're worth his time.
You're worth his time.
So that's again going to come back to reading.
Reading, exactly.
So the first thing that you told me is about ethics and intention. So you cannot be greedy. So your ethics, again, the value system matters, because people are going to be afraid of dealing with you if they are not comfortable or if they are not being able to trust you.
Correct.
And if you are not going to have a good value system, if assuming that the other person is relatively experienced, they would get that. They would understand that. You'll not be able to deceive somebody
Correct.
for a very long time.
Correct.
And when you're looking at the second part you talked about for the depth of conversation, so one, you have to be obsessed about the industry or the work that you're doing, because only then you'll be able to have that command over that industry, that knowledge, that space. And second is you have to read a little voraciously. Otherwise, how do you have that kind of depth? I mean, how would you do a value addition to somebody who might be senior in the industry for a few years? Whatever area you're specializing in, you have to know more about it in order to add value.
100%.
What else?
It's going to be a long-term thing. It's not a short-term thing कि मैं एक बार किसी से मिल के आया, I develop that relationship.
Right.
Might be for some people, but the thing that I have noticed with my experience, it needs to be a long-term thing. You can't expect short-term results from these.
So how do you look at these networking events? Because one, you're saying कि long-term relation build करना होगा, and then आप network कर रहे हो, तो networking events कैसे, मतलब how do you look at these kind of events? Because there are certain events where people just go, they exchange cards and they come back.
Correct.
And they think that is networking. Do you think that is going to work?
Exchanging cards is not really the thing that I look forward to. Again, this is a thing that I've recently got to know. A couple of new things. Instead of just exchanging card, what you can do is, lot of people cards में या instead of exchanging cards, वो अपना LinkedIn का scanner दे देते हैं.
Okay.
So you directly scan the LinkedIn का QR scanner. You're automatically connected to the other person on LinkedIn.
Right.
जैसे ही connect हुआ, just send him a message, hi, on spot. कि hey, we met on XYZ event. Was lovely catching with you. Hope we stay connected.
Right.
Something on these grounds. So at least you don't need to make an effort after the event to sort out all the cards, to organize them, save the number and then message.
Right.
So this is a new thing that I learned. कि instead of just giving cards, because cards का value भैया honestly उतना नहीं है. You meet hundreds of people, you have hundreds of cards.
Correct.
Makes no sense. कि वो cards कहीं तो आपके pocket में होएगा.
So first of all, I feel that in an event, you're not supposed to be meeting hundreds of people, because then the whole purpose gets diluted. Second, what I beg to differ over here a little bit. So not that what you're saying is wrong, but if on the spot I'm supposed to be scanning the card, because I got those metal cards and all, where you don't have to give the paper card to somebody, they'll scan it or they'll tap it on their phone and they'll save it and all. But then what if I don't remember the name of the person or the spelling with which their name is spelled? And at times it becomes a little cumbersome. So I realize that I don't want to use that part of the tech. So with a card, what happens is, if I have a physical card of somebody, I have somebody to help me save the numbers and the cards and all in office. But normally I don't even ask them to do. Normally what I do is, when generally I'm on a flight back or something, I'm using that time on the flight to save the number and message them. And that message has to have some meaning, and it cannot be a very generic message that, okay, we met over here and glad meeting you. I try to make it personal. That's only possible if you had a meaningful conversation with them.
Correct.
So there is a takeaway or something.
Correct.
So which you mentioned that it has to be a long-term relationship. There has to be a give and take. And the random ones, it cannot be very salesy kind of a networking thing that you're attending.
100%.
And if that is the case, then of course your agenda, or again, you also have to see the level at which you're meeting, the space for which you're meeting. You're not looking at selling a washing machine or something. So all those things also add to the context of it. So whether you're a car salesman or whether you're looking at a fundraise and then you're looking at a long-term thing where you're being a part of the business exactly. So that also matters. But I've seen people using this networking term a little in a shallow manner. So I would reiterate what you exactly said, that you need to first of all have depth. What people often do is, and at times students also, they feel that networking is the key, network is net worth. They'll read all those lines, but there is no give and take. There is no long-term relation they're looking at. There's no depth in their conversation. If in that situation you're networking, it's not going to help.
Not going to help.
It's not going to be of any use. Nobody's, as you said, is going to entertain you.
Correct.
Why will somebody give you the time?
100%. So focus on the depth of conversation.
What about your communication skills in this?
Very important. Again, bhaiya, you need to have empathy. And secondly, you need to be a good listener. It's not that if I'm having a word with you, I don't need to put my point first to you. Ki, Ashwini bhaiya, I want XYZ from you. And now you tell me what you want from me.
So fancy language nahi chahiye.
Fancy language nahi chahiye. ultimately people are people.
Yes.
Empathy is there. You need to come with a mindset of, I won't say helping, but understanding the other person.
Perfect.
Ki you understand the other person, where is he coming from, what are his needs.
Right.
Can you help him, or can you make his work easy, or can you connect him with the relevant person? Because if you help the other person, वो बंदा आपको याद रखेगा कि अच्छा Yash connected me to XYZ person.
Right.
Something or the other, he's helped me in my business, he's helped me in XYZ thing.
Again, give and take. First give and then take.
100%.
Adam Grant का book है. For those who want to understand networking, you can genuinely read this one. Okay.
And
written
mostly it's-
communication, not in your role so much.
Not in my role so much. Mostly mails and all होता है, but what I've done is I've created a standardized template for it.
Got it.
कि यही template है if I want to reach out to a family office, if I want to reach out to investors, startups.
But the more you customize, the more would be the readability of that.
100%.
Right.
I'm working
and again,
on that.
when I'm talking about written communication, I'm not saying it has to be fancy. It has to be like in the very first line or two, would you be able to capture the attention of the person you're sending the mail to? And whether it's going to be worth their time to read the remaining email.
Correct.
That is the idea.
100%.
So ये तो सोचते ही होगे जब आप टेम्पलेट भी बना रहे हो.
आप जब सब्जेक्ट भी लिखते हैं तो सब्जेक्ट भी आपको सोच समझ के लिखना पड़ेगा.
It cannot be a spamming kind
exactly.
of a subject.
कि वो पहले सब्जेक्ट खोले फिर आगे का 2 लाइन पढ़े मेल का.
So what are the things that you did good as a student when you were studying? I'm going to ask you the bad ones also. To do good at your job that you're doing very well right now.
But first thing is...
So just to let the people know, so now Yash sends me recommendation which startup to invest in and not to invest in. So I'm very happy discussing and getting into startup investment ideas from him. So there are, I think, just 3 that I've invested in. 1 through a student. 2 I did it myself through somebody else. And now I'm going to look at your recommendations coming
100%.
my way. हाँ, बताओ.
So firstly is भैया you need to put in long hours.
Yes.
जो फोकस होता है ना कि अगर आप एक स्टार्टअप में घुसे हुए हैं 4-5-6 घंटा आपको वो स्टार्टअप के बारे में पूरा समझना है, मार्केट, कंपेटिटर्स. एंड द पॉइंट इज, वर्किंग इन अ प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री, डेटा इज नॉट इजीली अवेलेबल.
Yes.
सो गोइंग टू 10 different websites, talking to people, getting your work done. So focus is very important. That's something that...
Focus and sustain focus for long hours.
100%. So that is one. Secondly, what I would say is it's going to be more on communication, networking, talking to people.
What did you do good as a student which is helping you today?
So one is obviously when you're studying for professional exams like CFA, FRM, obviously it's going to help your concentration level, your focus level.
ठीक है.
Again, I'm in the finance field, so the concepts
ठीक है.
are helping me there. Thirdly, again, when I was with you here, I was more focused towards talking to people, getting things done,
ठीक है.
managing things. So those are a couple of things that I feel everyone should adhere to, and it's going to help you in your professional journey, not in terms of private markets, but in terms of any market that you're working in.
Getting things done is a big deal. Because क्या होता है लोगों को ना, मतलब एक तो सब लोगों को काम समझाना भी नहीं आता है कि कैसे समझाए. मतलब सामने वाले का क्या अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, क्या नॉलेज है, उसके हिसाब से आपको उतना डिटेल में इंस्ट्रक्शन देना होगा फॉर द अदर पर्सन टू अंडरस्टैंड टू गेट द वर्क डन.
Correct.
सो दैट इज अ चैलेंज. सो ग्रेट दैट यू वर एबल टू वर्क ऑन दैट ओवर हियर. क्या चीज़ लगता है कि नहीं एज अ स्टूडेंट ये चीज़ और उस समय सीख लिया होता या कर लिया होता तो आज और बेटर होता या फास्टर होता करियर मेरा? That's more important actually.
That is very
for
important.
the other students also to learn.
I was not very much involved into reading.
Okay.
So depth of conversation है वो नहीं आते मेरे में.
ठीक है.
जब मैं start किया था, अब तो I'm still learning, I'm still working on it, but now I'm in a better place than I was before.
Definitely, much better. I'm loving the conversation. Before the session also.
So one is reading is very important. So that is something that I ignored a bit. Secondly, what I ignored is I need to introspect, but I was too much in a hurry to do things.
Okay.
Saying कि यार अच्छा ये सब्जेक्ट्स करना है, आज मेरे को ये 3 सब्जेक्ट्स करना है, करो, ख़त्म करो, वीडियोस कंप्लीट करो, कंप्लीट इट. So that there's a tick box on your bucket list or on your to-do list.
Right.
But if you're not doing it to the best of your ability, just taking that thing will not help you.
Okay.
So this is something that I
मतलब base
understood.
strong करना पड़ेगा.
बेस स्ट्रॉन्ग करना पड़ेगा. खाली करने के लिए ये नहीं है कि मैं बस आपका सारा वीडियोस देख लिया, मैं टिक कर लिया, मैं
It
एग्जाम
has
के
to
लिए
be
चला गया.
focused. You have to absorb and understand this.
100%. So
ठीक
those
है.
are things that I'm also currently working on, and I wish I would have done it पहले.
Okay. Anything you'll recommend to your juniors now?
Invest in yourself.
That's my recommendation. You pick another one.
That is one thing that I've learned during my
nice.
professional career. Invest in yourself. No matter what people say to you, no matter what all challenges come into your life, one thing that you need to do is you need to trust yourself. Ki no matter whatever challenges that come your way, you have the power
Don't
to
underestimate yourself based on other people.
correct.
Or even if at times there are cases where, you know, people, I mean, say for example, your exam did not work out and they'll make you feel a little less about yourself or your capabilities. So have good ambitions and trust yourself. And if you feel a little underconfident, work harder.
100%. So invest in yourself is one motto that I recommend my juniors, and something that I'm following to the core of my being.
Wonderful. Any book recommendation for the startup space? Somebody getting into VCP, etc.
There's this book called Venture Deals.
वही वाला है क्या? I got 2-3 books delivered to my place. Just hand it over to me.
Oh,
So
lovely.
I got this one delivered to my place. I haven't read it, so I'll not be able to comment right now. But yeah, this is something that I'm looking at reading. Venture Deals. What
Venture
else?
Deals. So this
Actually
is
got 3 books on startups. This space only today.
the second one that I'm currently reading is obviously on negotiation, which is Never Split the
Never
Difference.
Split the Difference. Good.
And the third one is Hard Things About Hard Things.
This has been on the recommendation list. I'm planning to read it next month.
Correct.
I haven't read it yet.
Good book. I'm also currently reading.
Most probably I'll start it in a day or two.
So, but y'all should read Venture Deals. It's
Okay.
it's a great book. It's going to clear your concepts of what a term sheet is.
Okay. More on the technical side of
more
the
on the
industry
technical side, industry side, but it's a good read for everyone who wants to gain more knowledge in
On
this
the
industry.
VCP space.
Correct.
So it's not a book like Never Split the Difference is something everybody should read because they are the skills that everybody in all profiles need to develop. If you're looking at a VCP space, we can look at Venture Deals as one of the good books. How important is reading and understanding human psychology?
Very important, bhaiya.
Because I've been telling this to all the students. Also, you know, when you're binging on social media or even the legacy media, the way they manipulate us into framing bias and clickbaits and all that. So be it negotiation, be it networking, be it marketing, be it consumer behavior, be it looking at how the markets are working. So psychology becomes extremely important. So make sure that, you know, after your this one, Chris was that you're reading, and Adam Grant you can read maybe in a while, and also evaluate which skills do you need right now. I mean, which skills are the most important immediately. Accordingly, you prioritize your reading as to which ones you need to read first and which ones to read later. But make it a point that you're reading more in general in terms of human psychology and human behavior moving forward long term.
For sure.
Right? Okay, good to have you.
My pleasure, bhaiya.
And we'll continue this conversation off camera.
100%.
A lot of things to talk about.
Thank you so much.
Most welcome.